the scouting aspect of it is very important. You need to find ways you can efficiently scout if you have limited time like that. And if you're the weekend warrior, you have to have setups for various conditions. Because what a lot of people will do is they'll force it. They'll be like, these are my only 2 days to go, and this is the spot I got to be. So they'll go in there when the conditions are bad or the timing ain't right and the deer ain't in there yet, and all they're doing is leaving their scent in that spot and they're blowing everything out because they don't have good conditions to get in and out of there.
Well, especially because this kind of transitions the conversation to something that I'm actually even more excited about, because there's a lot of people that fall in this category, is the weekend warrior who might have a day and a half, a week to hunt if they're lucky. And efficiency is massive because, if you start calculating, depending on how long your seasons are and not counting other events and things you might have to do on the weekend, birthday parties, whatever, especially you got kids, of how many opportunities you might get to hunt a season, you start really limiting that number down, and then you have to try to be as efficient as possible, especially if you're trying to provide food, you're trying to kill a nice buck, you're just trying to have fun and everything. Like, you have to become efficient in that circumstance. And that's a lot of what we're talking about now, as well as, you could have some of those spots that, even if it's your home ground, especially if we're talking public land here in this circumstance, you can go super far in and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, you're trying to scrap to a new area. For the weekend warrior kind of individual who's trying to become more efficient, especially if you're talking bow hunting, is it even more critical for them to have as many spots as possible to be able to spot check? Like, what is your advice and thought process for someone who has that 1 to 1.5 days a week to be able to go and hunt outside of spending time with family? What would be the thought process there about trying to break down an area and learn it to try to become efficient in that on that property?
First thing is to be self-aware of what your situation is, and don't just watch internet shows and think, oh, I'm going to do what this guy did. Like, this guy, whoever you're watching, is going to be in a different situation more than likely than you are. So be self-aware and organize your time so you figured out to what you have available. Weekend warrior, I kind of break this into, let me back up. I break this into kind of 3 different categories, right? So you got the guy that works 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Weekend warrior can go Saturday and Sunday. Maybe he can sneak out after work a day or two during the week. Then you got the flexible worker who works 3/12s or something like that. Or he can call his boss when a cold front is on the way and he can take off work. So he gets the same amount of time per week as the weekend warrior, but the weekend warrior's got to go Saturday, Sunday. The flexible worker can go Monday, Wednesday. He can go Thursday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, based off of what the conditions are. That's completely different scenarios that you're dealing with, because the flexible worker can use weather to his advantage, and hunt the best weather days or the best conditions for his spots. The weekend warrior must go when he can go to do it. Or the third one is the week vacationer. So he's got to work all year, but he saves up his time so he can go for 10 days in a row. All 3 of those things look way, way different. And I mean, we could just stick with the weekend warrior. You have your days. So what I'd be trying to do is go out and learn a little bit each time. Don't try to overcomplicate this thing. Everybody wants success right now. Just learn a little bit each time. If you got an hour after work to buzz by a spot and just see if there's anybody hunting it, check where the pressure is, maybe slip in there, look for some sign without being too intrusive. I'm always looking in that situation. I'm always looking at areas and deer sign that I can check regularly, whether that's with the trail camera or just with my eyes. Because you'll notice on a lot of these public areas, there'll be deer sign in areas where there's people. That's night sign. But if you can go in there and say you're on an access path and you're a half mile in and there's a line of scrapes opened up along the edge of it. Well, I'm going to look at them scrapes and I'm going to keep that in mind all the time. In postseason, wintertime, I want to go backtrack off those scrapes and find killing setups in that spot. I don't want to do that during the season. So weekend warrior, take your weekends in February and March and go out there and spend time refining your setups. Pick trees. Think about how you're going to get in and out of there at 3 o'clock in the morning. Think about the right conditions to access those areas. And then come fall, go to your scouting spots when you have an hour after work. Buzz in there, check them scrapes. It's like, they're not opened up. It's October 1st. They're not opened up. There's not many acorns falling, not a lot of deer sign. Okay, be back in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, Friday after work, buzz in there. Oh, fresh scrape right here, fresh rub right there. There's 2 trails leading down in there. I've got a good tree down there that I picked last March for a south wind. Sunday afternoon, we got a south wind. Boom. You've got a setup in mind that you can go hunt that weekend. And you didn't just put a bunch of pressure on the deer. So the scouting aspect of it is very important. You need to find ways you can efficiently scout if you have limited time like that. And if you're the weekend warrior, you have to have setups for various conditions. So if you find a bad setup in the middle of, I was going to say bad A, but I don't want to cuss. If you find a really good setup in the middle of a bedding area with rubs, it's tore up, but it's very intrusive to get in there. If you're a weekend warrior, keep that in mind, but know that, 9 times out of 10, you ain't going to have the conditions to hunt that spot. So you need to be looking for spots where you can hunt if it's hot. You need to be looking for spots you can hunt on a cold front, spots you can hunt when it's dead calm out. Are there some spots real close to the road that you could get a morning hunt in where you're not going to be super intrusive? Because what a lot of people will do is they'll force it. They'll be like, these are my only 2 days to go, and this is the spot I got to be. So they'll go in there when the conditions are bad or the timing ain't right, and the deer ain't in there yet, and all they're doing is leaving their scent in that spot, and they're blowing everything out because they don't have good conditions to get in and out of there. That benefits the flexible worker way more because they can pick and choose when they go. They have the same amount of time. So that would be my advice, biggest piece of advice for the weekend warriors. Finding efficient ways to scout the properties that you're hunting and multiple setups for multiple conditions because you're at the mercy of whatever the weather is doing when you can go.
That is such a good point. That's an underutilized point because, man, I've fallen victim to that so much over these last couple of years where I'm just going and trying to find the best setup, period. Like, where are the deer at? Where's the best spot? And I never really consider, like, well, what if it's hot? What if it's a south wind? And, like, it's kind of an afterthought, but I've never focused on that. And sure enough, Saturday rolls around or whatever, Thanksgiving holiday rolls around, and there's a warm front. Or it's like a crazy wind that I didn't anticipate, or it's raining, or whatever. And then I'm sitting in my truck on Onyx. I'm like, well, I could go here, I could go there, and I'm just like hunting a random spot at that point.
Yep.
And that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, I don't think. That's a really, really good tip.
Well, and also when you're talking about efficiency, and weekend warrior, we hear a lot from weekend warriors, and we've interviewed a few that are very successful in the Southeast, who they really try to make it work as best as possible with a very tight schedule. And the number one common thing that comes up with all those guys that we've had on the podcast is timing. Mm-hmm. Like, there's certain times when I might need, or they may need to, I'm going to say, build some brownie points with the family and the spouse, make sure everything's taken care of at home because they know there's a certain window of time, typically going to be late rut time frame, of when they need to be in the field, when they're going to take that couple-day vacation, when they can have a long weekend to go and hunt. And they typically do enough homework ahead of time and over years of history. They know where they need to be, when they need to be with the right conditions, and they go in there and they selectively harvest a great buck or just shoot their deer and then be able to get back out because, again, they have very limited time. So the efficiency and the timing becomes super critical.